Good morning, Rams, and welcome to a very special episode of Humans of CSU. I'm AJ Frankson, and today I'll be talking with the campaigns running for ASCSU President and Vice President. We'll also have an inside look at the two Speaker of the Senate campaigns later on. You can always find more information about the campaigns on collegian.com. Enjoy the show. I'm sitting here with ASCSU President and Vice Presidential candidates Brust and Brust Winchell. Thanks for being here today.
It's great to be here. It's great to be back in the newsroom. It's been so long since I've been sitting in this chair. It's weird. But
yeah, we've got some new lights.
Yeah,
but it's pretty much the
looks
same.
great in here. Yeah.
So, what are your current positions on campus issues?
So one of the things that I think is really different about Marina and I and our campaign is that we are going into ASCSU because we saw a lot of internal issues within ASCSU that we really wanted to change. And as outsiders, as students, and as members of the media, we really thought, let's stop complaining about it and let's get in there and actually get some representation. A cool thing is actually that if we were to be elected, we would be the first two vice president and president women that would ever be in ASCSU. And so I think it's really a great step for us that we would be able to take to bring representation to ASCSU, which is our main goal, is to bring representation of the students back into ASCSU instead of making it just this internal circle. But Marina, do you have anything to add to that?
I also think working for the media also kind of really helped us see a lot of problems that I don't think the average student saw, and kind of the lack of transparency within ASCSU. So I think we just want to be that kind of pair that goes in there, shakes things up.
Yeah, we want to shake things up, for sure.
Yeah, get ASCSU working for the right motives, and yeah.
Right. So what are your plans specifically for ASCSU itself?
So we want to look into a lot of things that have to do with the Senate, because I believe that if we provide positive incentive for our senators, we can actually make them want to represent the students more, because right now our senators are unpaid, and we want to get senators to at least have an incentive to stay. And we've been talking with Slice, and we've been talking about a lot of possibilities that we can go and look into, and I think that we're going to come out on top with being able to provide positive incentive for our senators.
You mentioned that you are both former participants in media. So could you elaborate on that? And just to clarify, you haven't held any ASCSU positions before.
Never.
Yes. So how do you think your involvement in media and, I guess, not involvement in ASCSU has prepared you for the roles that you're trying for?
I've had a bunch of communication with RHA, and so I've been able to see what their problems are and what they've been dealing with. And then now we can say, hey, I've seen these problems and what you brought to the collegian, now let's help you and see how we can fix it in ASCSU. And just that communication-based policy making and that communication amongst all student groups that don't necessarily have involvement with ASCSU is super important. And so I think that my experience within the opinion desk at the Rocky Mountain Collegian is really going to bring a lot more discourse and a lot more communication-based politics, I would think, to ASCSU and then also to the entire student body.
Okay, yeah. And you, Marina?
I know I wrote for the Arts and Cultures desk a lot, but I think one of my strengths that I bring into this campaign is, yes, media, but also I'm going into my second year as an orientation leader. I'm an RA this year, and then I work for the Alumni Association on campus. So I think I bring a lot of either current or future or even past Rams voices into ASCSU. So I think really focusing on that student voice and kind of being that kind of mediator in between students and ASCSU, and
yeah. Great. So why specifically did you both decide to run individually and together as a group?
The reason that I ran mainly is because I was like, come on, let's shake things up. If we're going to be complaining, let's fix the problem and let's get somebody from the outside who's not internally within ASCSU, with these internal individual motives, who actually has goals to bring communication to the university. And I've showed it throughout my 3 years. You talk about experience. We may not have experience in ASCSU, but we have experience other places and in other broad places. And so that's why I wanted to run for ASCSU, is so that I could reach the student voice and continue to be kind of a mediator of communication and of discourse for CSU.
Yeah. And then looking back on my first year experience was the complete opposites of Alex. I think being a first year, ASCSU was the worst to me. Like, it was very intimidating, very scary. Whenever I saw people who were in ASCSU walk into class or in the LSE, they were in like suits
just
and
not
scary.
Not accessible at all.
And I was like, seems cool, but don't see myself doing that. And I really limited myself. And as I progressed in college and joined organizations and really opened up my self-confidence in holding leadership positions. I was like, you know what, sure, let's go in there, let's get in there and shake things up and just be these powerful women on campus who really want to change CSU's culture and shape it for the best.
That's so much, like, I feel like we both have experience on both ends of the spectrum that really play off of each other.
Yeah, great. So what issues specifically are pertinent that you hope to change?
Well, one thing that I just have to say is parking. Parking has been an issue for the last 3 years that I have been here at CSU, and so I think that we need to address that because that's a main student concern. We personally are really interested in looking into the ethics. I mean, on the parking website, it's actually said if you buy a pass, you are not guaranteed a spot in those lots. And so I think there's some ethical, nuanced issues within the parking program that we really need to look at because honestly, I looked at the other day my own schedule. And I did some math, and I found out that it is cheaper for me to come to school every single day and pay to park than it is for me to buy an A-lot pass. Yeah, so, and we want to make sure that students know about this so then we can tackle the issue of parking. Some other things that we want to do is more broad-based things. We want to bridge a lot of gaps. We want to bridge gaps between student orgs and ASCSU. One of those things is RHA, the residence halls. We want to bring the residence halls, both RAs and that population, as well as the first-year population, and really bridge that gap so that they have representation within ASCSU.
I think
Marina?
also something that was very frustrating on both of our ends was a lot of the bias-motivated incidents that happened last semester. And I think as an institution and within ASCSU, we failed to kind of tackle these issues. And, you know, being in an RA position, I really want to just feel like people have a spot on campus, and it's easy for us to sit up here and say, we'll tackle those issues as they come, but Alec and I want to get in there and tackle them before they even start and change this culture on campus.
Great. Well, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us on
Yeah,
here.
really, thank you.
I'm sitting here with ASCSU President and Vice Presidential candidates, Liam, Aubrey, and Lindsay Roper. Thanks for being here today, you guys.
Thank you very much for having us.
Excited
to be here.
Yeah, so what, if we just want to start off, are your current positions in ASCSU? Or are you involved in the Senate or ASCSU at all right now?
I'm currently a senator for the College of Business.
Cool.
And then I sit on the Student Fee Review Board.
Okay, perfect. Cool. So what are your plans for ASCSU and the CSU campus?
Well, we have three main issues that we're really wanting to tackle. We really want to fight the issue of food insecurity on campus because we know that that's kind of a big thing that a lot of people don't necessarily realize the scope of on our campus, and we're always continuing to try and gather more information on that. But we really do want to make sure that no student is unable to properly invest in themselves educationally because they're worried about where their next meal might be coming from. Beyond that, we really want to improve professional development opportunities and make sure that every student has the opportunity to have a smooth transition from college to career. And finally, we really want to make sure we don't raise the ASCSU student fee. We feel like we should leave as much money in the students' hands as possible, and we feel like we can stretch the dollars that are coming in a little bit better and make it more of an investment into ASCSU and back into the student body rather than just money you're losing to student fees.
Yeah, and we also want to focus on the culture of ASCSU and CSU as a whole. We just want to create a culture that every student feels like they have the opportunity for their voice to be heard, and we feel like we're one of the best teams to make that happen.
Great. So how do you think that your current positions in ASCSU prepare you for the positions that you're trying for?
I mean, honestly, I think in my role as a senator, the thing that has prepared me the most has just been the amazing people that I've gotten to work with throughout my time in ASCSU. There have been so many people who are doing so many wonderful things and are just so passionate about this campus and truly have constantly inspired me to work harder and to do more and look for new ways that I can do something new in ASCSU and pursue new initiatives. And so truly the wonderful people that are already in the organization and do so much to try and help the students of this campus have really prepared me well to try and take on this bigger role.
Yeah, and with the role of Vice President, one of the main responsibilities is to chair the Student Fee Review Board, and so being the only Vice Presidential candidate that's sitting on it currently, I have that opportunity to build those relationships, see where the budgets are looking for the student fee areas and also where student fees are going.
Great. So what legislation have you guys written or sponsored?
So I was able to write a resolution earlier this year It was in support of the free speech bill that was passed through the Colorado State Legislature, and really make sure that there's a good opportunity for every student on this campus to really speak their mind about things they're passionate about, and make sure that that never comes into conflict, and that they're free to do that at all times. One of the other pieces of legislation that I've worked on that I'm really passionate about, there's an awesome program called U at CSU that not a whole lot of students know about or take full advantage of, but it's something you can use through RamWeb. It's a really cool tool that has a lot of stuff for academic success, mental health support, physical health recommendations, and things just really to make sure that you have the most successful college experience possible. And so I've worked with the health center a little bit on trying to promote that within ASCSU and bring that to light a little bit more. So that's been kind of the big stuff that I've worked on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I, as of yet, have not written any legislation, but I look forward to being able to in the future.
Yeah, for sure. So why did you both decide to run, both individually and together as partners?
Well, I mean, can I tell a little story real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have been super passionate about CSU for my entire life. My mom went to CSU when she was an undergrad as a first-generation student, and the people who supported her on her academic journey, they gave her so much passion for CSU. And the fact that their people here care so much about supporting others on their journey, and just seeing that was really what made me want to be able to have that opportunity to support others, and really be able to give back to the CSU community that's given me so much.
And for me, being a CSU RAM, I've had the opportunity of just knowing a lot of different students, faculty, building those relationships, and everyone has been so supportive of my academic journey and my involvement at CSU. And I've seen ASCSU kind of from the outside, and being able to see all the positive change they have made, and then knowing that Liam and I can go in and make like incremental change to ASCSU and just CSU as a whole. Like, I know that we can really have that positive impact, and that's what allowed me to really want to run.
And I got to take a second to brag on Lindsay, because she's very humble, and she won't say this about herself, but she's absolutely brilliant, and I say it every day, but I feel incredibly thankful for the opportunity to be part of such a great team and have someone who's just absolutely great at everything she does as my running mate.
Great, yeah. So what issues specifically are present that you guys hope to change?
I mean, I think we have a huge opportunity to make a very tangible difference with the issue of food insecurity on campus. There are so many great initiatives that are happening already with mobile food banks, Swipe Out Hunger, Rams Against Hunger, partnerships that we can pursue with agencies on campus through Slice, partnerships that we can pursue outside of campus with like the Larimer County Food Bank, for example. So I think we have a really awesome chance there to make a real tangible difference. And one thing that I'd also really like to work on too, just kind of a side thing, but this is something that I'm really passionate about too, being a lifelong Ram fan, is we have some awesome opportunities to really work on the game day experience. We've been making a lot of great connections within the athletic department, and so we think that's another issue on campus that people really care about, that we would love to really cultivate that sense of Ram pride and community through that game day experience.
Mm-hmm. I also think another issue is with the bias-motivated incidents and just kind of diversity on campus as a whole. ASCSU is in a unique position where they are able to make an impact, and I think Liam and I going in there, we can really get that conversation going, start committees, start conversations, and partner with a lot of different offices on campus, including diversity offices, different colleges, etc., and just really kind of starting that conversation, I think, is going to be really important.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for being here and sitting here with me and having a chat. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Had a
having
great
us.
time.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sitting here with President and Vice Presidential ASCSU candidates Jacob Epperson and Carter Hill. Thanks for being here today, guys.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, perfect. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions about your candidacy. So what are your current positions on campus issues and in ASCSU?
So big things we're really trying to focus on, which I think really set us apart, is what you don't see with the other campaigns, is we're really trying to focus on interpersonal violence. We talk a lot, both Carter and I are in fraternity and sorority life and leaders in the actual councils themselves. And we talk about that and open those conversations up a lot, but we really don't see that a lot with general students. And that's probably because there's some uncomfortable reasoning behind that, which is fine. But it definitely needs something we need to focus on, and we need to have leaders in place that like decree that kind of behavior.
You know, honestly, I think that what the biggest thing for our campaign is giving this back to the students. A lot of what happens in ASCSU isn't relied whatsoever to the students, so I think it's really about giving them a chance to have their voices heard, and that's what Epperson Hill is going to do.
Perfect. Yeah, so what are your plans for ASCSU specifically?
Big things is focusing on our platform, you know, decreeing the interpersonal violence that's occurring on campus, keeping student fees the same. You know, a lot of people say that's a very hard thing to do. Hard is just a word. That's doesn't mean it cannot be done. And we have a plan in place that we're going to use to make sure that happens. We also really want to focus on government relations. That's a big thing. We definitely saw that was a hot topic last year during the election with people saying they had connections, they don't have connections. But we definitely want to be able to build those connections and create that so we can represent CSU student body on an external basis. We're also trying to focus on a lot with food and nutrition as well. So.
Like I said before, like Epperson kind of talked about, it's going to be a lot about focusing on what really matters to students. That means their academic success and really their overall success in CSU in general. They're here for 4 years. They best have the best 4 years of their lives.
So do you hold any positions in ASCSU right now? Are you like Senate members? Or?
So I formerly served as a senator for the intra-university on the Undeclared Leadership Council, which represent undeclared students.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I personally have never held a position in ASCSU, but I've held a position in fraternity and sorority life. I've been a teaching assistant for 2 years now, so I understand what it's like to be in the classroom and really work with students hands-on. So that's been really great.
So how do you feel that you're prepared for the roles of president and vice president?
So I've been in 2 president's roles already. I served as president of my fraternity for a year and made great strides in the fraternity and definitely have some recognitions to definitely show that. And I recently was elected as the Interfraternity Council President for CSU. So I definitely have some experience in working with budgets, working with people below me in cabinet level positions.
Yeah, I've also held the position of philanthropy chair in my fraternity. I've been the IFC VP of Philanthropy and Community Service, but I think my strongest attribute is being that teaching assistant, you know, being in the classroom. You know, no other candidate has experienced what struggles on a day-to-day basis students face, and I've been there and I've been trying to help as best as I can. So I think that's really what qualifies me personally, just being hands-on and experiencing it firsthand. Right.
So why did you guys decide to run together and both individually?
So together, we're fraternity brothers. Carter and I have been in leadership positions before together, and we feel that we're a great team together. We have accomplished a lot of feats. And why not bring that to a larger space with ASCSU and represent the entire student body. Individually, my entire collegiate career, I've been dedicated to service to students, my brothers, fraternity and sorority life members. So that's definitely something I hold very dear to me. CSU has been a great, memorable experience for me, stuff I'll remember forever, and that's something I want to give back and let other people have that same opportunity through leadership and service.
Is there any legislation that you have written or sponsored?
So I haven't written a lot of legislation. I've done some sponsoring before. I've definitely spoke a lot with the senators when I was in Senate. I've done a lot of legislation with my other leadership positions. I've rewritten entire bylaws and constitutions before. I'm currently in the same process with the Interfraternity Council, but I have somewhat limited experience in ASCSU, but I don't feel that affects us at all. I'm a very quick learner on my feet, and I have experience in other aspects as well.
Absolutely, and I think that you know, I've never had any experience in ASCSU either, but as far as legislation goes, I've been keeping a careful watch on things that are going on, which is pretty difficult to do, I must say. You know, the website's not very transparent, and that's what we're going to be working on, but watching some of the stuff that ASCSU is spending our student fees on, I think I can speak for a lot of the students. I'm a little fed up with that. I don't like my student fees going to things that I don't necessarily support, so I think that's what it comes down to for this campaign, is really fighting for that and being transparent.
Right, so what specifically would you want those fees to go to?
So a big thing that we've really been focusing on is we really want to allocate more money towards the SDPS offices. They deserve a huge round of applause in everything they do, and we don't feel they're recognized as much as they should be. That's definitely something we definitely want to focus on, is create that more diverse and open thought atmosphere here at CSU. Another big thing is like they say minimum wage increases and inflation will bring up student fees, which we understand those are controls and parameters in place, but you know, there's been times where they don't really let you see the budget that often. There's close to $200,000 that just sits around, and it just sits in an account, and it's almost wasteful spending. Why raise more money when you haven't used what's already been there? So that's definitely what we want to do. Is we're going to do a lot of reallocation of money, so it's all going to make sure it fits.
And really, the biggest thing that we can stand for is advocacy for academic. You are here for your academic success. Students are here to get a degree, and there are so many programs like the TILT program and teaching assistant programs that do so much for students, and they give them such a great opportunity. Why would we not fund that? Why are we wasting money on things that don't matter to students when they should be on every student? Academic success is important. So that's what we're really trying to fight for. That's really trying to advocate for, is the academic and overall success of CSU student population.
Right. Well, yeah, thank you guys for being here today.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
it's been awesome.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm here with ASCSU presidential candidate Tristan Syron here with me today. And unfortunately, vice presidential candidate Kevin Sullivan couldn't make it, so we are here joined by Haley Morton, the campaign manager. So how are you guys today?
Fantastic. And yourself?
Perfect. Yeah, I'm great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So tell me your current position in ASCSU. Do you have one? Are you involved in ASCSU?
No, I was, prior to this, I was the director of campus engagement. Before that, I served on the Senate for 2 years outside of ASCSU, but related to it. I'm the chair of UFAB. I sat on the Student Fee Review Board last year. I work in student legal services, so most of my experience is with things ASCSU related, student fee related.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you feel like those positions have prepared you for the presidential role?
Well, I guess based on that Collegian article we saw the other day, that there's a disconnect between ASCSU and we need to do a better job of communicating with the students. And that's all I did as campus engagement. The year prior to me, when they were tabling for the student government, getting all the freshmen involved, they got 80 signups, and I got over 400. So just that job alone, if we're saying that there's a disconnect and we need to have more people who are willing to reach out to students to get their input, I would say that's perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not speaking on behalf of myself, but Kevin Sullivan, obviously. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, but as recruitment and retention officer, one of the best things that he was able to do is bring so many new people into ASCSU. There was a point in time where there wasn't enough room in ASCSU to sit all of the active senators at the time. So I think that really speaks to his ability to get other people involved and get people from Greek life and different clubs and stuff like that, those people that don't normally join ASCSU into ASCSU, just to get more voices represented that way.
Yeah, for sure. So what are your plans for ASCSU?
Well, we have 3. Parking, a U+2 waiver, we call our off-campus solutions, and then informative registration.
Yeah. So U+2 was originally founded because of beet farming in Fort Collins, which is just kind of a random fact to know. But unfortunately, it unfairly affects students in terms of housing around campus. So what we want to do is just help students access this waiver and maybe talk to the city council and lower the fee of that the waiver has. That way students are able to apply with 4, 5, however many rooms there are, and then the city council will come in and decide whether or not that specific house is able to go around U+2.
So why are you running for candidacy?
I ran last year, and then after I put myself through that torture, I said, I'll never do that again. And there were a lot of people who thought I would do it again because I said, oh, you did pretty good on the trail last year, you should do it again. And I kept saying, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. And I think I finally, with more of the cultural things that were happening on campus, I think I finally just said, we need leadership that understands that can feel that a little bit. And I stepped up to the plate as I was hearing other people who might run. I was like, I think I could do a better job. And if you think you can do a better job than someone else, you have an obligation to do it. And then when people like Haley, who's the most wonderful person God's ever put on the planet, and when people like Kevin and Marcelino and Canayo, Alex, when these people got behind me, that's when I knew that this was something right. Because it's not so much about me, but when you see people who are just gathering around this team that we formed, it's truly amazing. And that's really why I'm running, because the team believes in me, I believe in them. It's such a cool dynamic we all have.
So do you want to talk a little bit more about the other pertinent issues that you wish to change?
Yeah, so informative registration. So we've all been at the end of the year when you get those course evaluation surveys, and I don't know if you're like me, that means I leave 10 minutes early. I think they're largely disregarded. I don't see too much of a purpose in it. And We actually stole it from her campaign last year. And when she came on, she was like, let's do this, and we enhanced it a little bit and said they should be filled out on Canvas, 1, to save the paperwork, and 2, they should be available online during registration. Everybody uses Rate My Professor for a reason, but it's kind of statistically skewed. You either really loved the professor or you really hated them, and that's the review you're getting on there. If everybody's filling them out and it's more than just the professor, but the content, the classroom that it was in as well, you're getting more data to go off of that has a good median to it. So that's what we'd like to see for registration enhancement.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, of course.
Ben Amundson is an ASCSU candidate for Speaker of the Senate. He is currently a senator, but believes he is the best candidate for Speaker because of the little things.
I think if you talk to the people around me, they'll notice that I've been faithful in those small circumstances when they ask me to do the little things, whether that's meeting with my constituents every single week to get an idea of what they want to have happen in student government right now. So I think it's things like that that make me qualified, not necessarily everything I could list out, but maybe just that people see that I'm faithful in those small circumstances, and they would trust me with those bigger ones because of it.
He says he's also good at letting other people's voices be heard.
I don't just voice my opinion in the student government, but I also have talked with my constituents very often, and because of that, it's not just me writing legislation, but I work with them to get their ideas as well.
He also wants to make changes in Senate's culture.
One thing I want to change is that I want to have such a service-oriented Senate that works on solving problems for others.
How?
So whether that's raking leaves, participating in CS Unity, whatever that might be, we think it's an issue that we talk too much about ourselves in student government when we could be focusing on the needs of other people.
As senator, he was a part of both the Women's Caucus and Water Bottle Bill.
It was going to exclude anyone who didn't identify as a female, and I actually amended that to make sure that student government wouldn't exclude anyone on the basis of sex, race, etc. We had a water bottle bill that was passed that kind of made it a big deal in the student government.
And he's not just keeping these as goals. His campaign is setting the standard for them.
What we did is we donated every single dollar from our campaign fund to Hurricane Harvey victims, and we gave it all away.
Here's his reasoning.
We believe more in the power of a positive message than we believe in the power of campaign money.
So my name is Merall, Sherif.
An everyday CSU student.
I'm a certified scuba diver.
With big plans.
And being able to work as servant first and leader second.
Merall Sherif has a long history of involvement on CSU's campus.
I currently have the honor of sitting as this year's Power Chair of the Senate, as well as serving as the Senator for the Women and Gender Advocacy Center. I also get to Vice Chair of the University Issues Committee, as well as sit as the Health Network Liaison for the Student Fee Review Board, and serve as the Vice President of the Multi-Faith and Belief Council.
And has been the leader and voice behind remarkable projects.
The Center, I've also been able to start my own little passion project and create the first ever ASCSU's Women's Caucus, which is one of 3 that currently exist in the United States.
Merall hopes to continue enacting change at CSU.
Holidays that belong to religions that don't follow a sun calendar but follow the lunar calendar, so those holidays change per the year, and sometimes, like for example in Muslim holidays, you won't know because it's based on the moon, so you won't know until like a few days before exactly what day it's going to be on, so sometimes that's a difficult conversation for students to have with their professors, and that's feedback that I've been able to receive from my constituents.
And within the Fort Collins community.
I have plans to author pieces of legislation myself, which include food insecurity and creating care packages for people who are insecure in their living situation.
Merall is also inspired to create more diversity and inclusion in Senate, an inspiration that came from a personal experience.
So I am a Libyan American Muslim woman, and I wear a hijab, so I wear a modest head covering on my head, and I typically wear a scarf, but this year I've started to wear hats and beanies and things that look a little bit less visibly Muslim. And since the beginning of this year, I have been able to add 9 lines to my resume. And that's a really uncomfortable truth for me, that I was able to have all these opportunities and get so involved on campus only after I had to compromise a little bit of my identity to do it. So my motivation in trying to run for Speaker of the Senate is to be able to create a space that is inclusive enough and diverse enough within our government to be able to match the representation of the demographic that we serve on campus.
Now, diversity in both physicality and mindset are a priority for Merall in regards to both Senate and the CSU population.
I think the one thing that I would hope sticks with whoever watches this, if nothing else, is that my goal for campus and for our Senate particularly, is not to have a Senate where we all believe the same thing, but to have a Senate where we may all have different beliefs, but we have to have faith in each other to be able to do the good work that we need to do.